Hello to everyone. Eric is with us with Costar. They have this huge resource for commercial listings, which we do not always find on MLS. It's not just for Canada, it's across North America. It's an amazing resource for anybody who wants to dabble into commercial and finds it rather challenging because it is part of the big boys club, if I may say so. And all of us don't get resources to actually function in that platform, but we are all, educated in it. We do the courses, we do all of that. So it's a huge avenue to open up our brokerage too. So we're really excited to have you on board, Eric.
Yeah, thank you, Sabiha. I really appreciate you and David, of course, for helping to organize this. I'm looking forward to sharing a little bit more about what CoStar is, especially today. I just want to get everyone to understand what CoStar is a little bit more. And actually, it's a good segue that Sabiha had mentioned. Yeah, commercial real estate could be a little bit of an old boys club, but that's exactly what a tool like CoStar is designed to allow you guys to have the same tool, the same information as CBREs, JLLs, and the like. Speaking of a little bit about myself, I came from JLL. I was at JLL for about 4 years doing investment sales, a lot of street front retail, a lot of redevelopment. And my job specifically was to be using CoStar to help my boss identify sale comps, identify listings in the market, identify owners. So who owns all the retail stores on Yonge Street between Finch and Shepherd, and what's the contact information for those owners. That's the kind of stuff we can get into in CoStar, among a lot of other things. So essentially, what I had planned today, I want to show a very quick overview of what CoStar is, because I think a lot of people think CoStar is like MLS, it's listings. It's a lot more than that. So I want to talk about what CoStar is, then we'll get into CoStar and I'll show a few examples. If people have questions, I'm happy to take them as they come. And then if there's lots of questions we need to save for the end, I'll say so. But if anyone has questions, either shout it out, put it in the chat box, and I'm happy to address that. So to take it away, I'm going to share my screen now. And I'm going to show you guys a little bit about who CoStar is.
Are you able to share? Yeah, perfect.
Yep. Sabiha, can you let me know when you can see the screen?
Yeah, I can now. Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So we'll talk about who is CoStar, our research and technology, and finally we'll get into the CoStar platform. First of all, who is CoStar? CoStar is the most comprehensive commercial real estate data and the most influential network of commercial real estate professionals. We spent over $5 billion on research and technology over the past 38 years. CoStar is a S&P 500 NASDAQ 100 company, has about 5,700 employees, almost over 180,000 subscribers, 29 brands under the CoStar Group umbrella. Some of those brands are here. Not sure if people are familiar with many of these. LoopNet is probably the most well-known brand under CoStar Group. Property for sale and lease, commercial stuff. So if you Google right now, industrial for lease in Toronto, you're going to see LoopNet right at the top of that list. Apartments.com, if anyone's doing multifamily investing, apartments.com is the leading rental network to find an apartment in the US, and it is now in Canada as of the beginning of January of 2023. What does that mean? Information from LoopNet on availabilities, information from apartments on vacancy and rent data, they all flow into the CoStar mothership. Similarly, STR, hospitality data, hotels. Other interesting note here, unfortunately not available yet in Canada, but homes.com is CoStar's residential push that just launched in the US, so very exciting. They did a big Super Bowl spend down there, and they're generating a lot of buzz there. Okay, research and technology, aside from the amount of money that we've invested, the $5 billion that we've invested on research, The real backbone for how CoStar gets its information is we have an army of researchers, about 1,600 research consultants. It's the largest research team of its kind in the US, and it's the largest commercial real estate research team in Canada. They're supported by 600 plus software developers. We have a team of in-house marketing analysts and economists, so full-time economists. Some people may know Carl Gomez, who does regular presentations, and real-time data feeds as well. So we subscribe to data feeds to help our research team do their job and to also augment our system. We're actually one of the largest aggregators of third-party data feeds in the real estate industry. So Geo Warehouse, I'm sure people are familiar with, parcelship, ownership information through Geo, Terranet. So actually every sale of a commercial property over $750,000, we get a direct feed from Terranet sent to our research team. MPAC, tax assessment, but also ownership information from MPAC. And then we have some other third-party feeds like Newstar, demographic data, Calibrate, traffic counts, and then we have their local representative across the country as well. One thing that is important to clarify again about CoStar is it's not like MLS. It's not just for sale or for lease. What we do is we track all commercial real estate properties. And when I say commercial real estate, I mean everything that's not single family homes, not condos, residential condos. And we kind of don't really do a lot of farmland. We will do some development farmland. But the point is office, industrial, retail, even if it's not on the market for sale or for lease, we still want to have that property information in CoStar. So this team, the field research team, they're driving cars, flying drones, and even the CoStar plane, which comes to our major markets every year or so. We got a plane that flies over the city, captures new development activity. It's quite impressive. It's coming back to Toronto this summer. Maybe I get to go up in it if I'm lucky. Then we have our market researchers. So these are the ones that are in the office. Maybe some of you have received a phone call from them before. They are speaking to brokers, owners, developers on a monthly basis or more frequently to get updates on their availability. So we reach out to brokers and owners to make sure that their listings are properly reflected in CoStar. Then the sale comp team. So I mentioned we get a direct feed from Terranet. We get the deed and the mortgage for all sales. But we don't stop at inputting those details. We're also going to call the buyers, call the sellers, try to get a little bit more clarification on the motivation. So is it a redevelopment? Is it a business value included in the sale? Is it a sale leaseback? So selling, the tenant sells it, the user sells it, then leases back the space. Any of these sort of details we want to include in the platform. Finally, we have a tenant team. So our commercial tenants that we're looking for, we're trying to find information on lease terms, expiration dates, and also contact information for these tenants. All of these here, different sections, we continue to add to CoStar over the years. So, market reports, underwriting reports, news, analytics, hospitality data. Most recently, we actually just launched the directory. That was literally just yesterday. We launched the directory. If you want to find brokers, if you want to find owners of a certain kind, all that's in CoStar. The point here, though, is these are all included as part of the CoStar package. You don't pay additional fees as these new features come out. It's all included. Here's where we're covering across country. I know you guys are located obviously in the GTA, but we do cover across Canada and we do cover across the US. To wrap it up, though, all of these groups, whether you're a broker, an owner, lenders, appraisers, retailers, they use CoStar for different reasons. But to boil it all down, the main takeaway, there's two things. One, CoStar helps you save time. And two, CoStar helps you uncover and find opportunities you may not be aware of without a tool like it. So that is the PowerPoint. Any questions? I'll take a quick pause here. Does anyone have any questions? I see something in the chat. Okay. David, thrown in.
Yeah, it's David. So Eric, I wanted to find out, so what does it take for a realtor who decides to be part of this platform? And is there any benefit in just researching, or is that available through your website or someplace, or do you need to have membership? Like, how does it really work?
So you need a membership in order to access the database. However, anyone can advertise their listings on CoStar at any time. So as CoStar wants to kind of make sure we have all the listings out there. So if anyone wants to get their listings on CoStar, they're able to. And then with that, you're able to see who looks at your listings on CoStar. It's one of the better features for free. Um, Aside from that, though, it is a subscription software, and I'm definitely going to address the details of what that looks like at the end.
So basically, to list your property is completely free, and we can kind of go through your website to list it.
Absolutely.
That's an amazing tool. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And if for those who are aware of LoopNet, CoStar, like I said, I mentioned LoopNet before, and I think it's floating above my head right over here. But LoopNet is a free to access marketplace. Anyone can go on LoopNet, but you need to pay to advertise on LoopNet, pay to advertise on the big audience, but free to access. CoStar is the reverse. CoStar, you need to pay to access CoStar, but it's free to advertise on. I know it can be a little
Mhm.
confusing.
And
Happy to
why would one choose to be on either or? Like,
right. So again, being on CoStar, you're going to get your listing in front of CoStar subscribers, primarily brokers and owners.
mm,
However, getting it on LoopNet, you get in front of anyone who's looking for free. So,
public, okay.
but you need to pay to access to advertise there. You get approximately, I think, listings on CoStar get anywhere between 200 to 800 views a month. And on LoopNet, it'll be 10, 15 times that you're getting thousands of views a month. So I'll touch on LoopNet at the end as well. But Sabiha, you're able to see my screen, correct?
Absolutely, yeah.
Awesome. So here we are on the CoStar homepage. First of all, I mentioned we have our own news written by our own team of journalists and economists. So that news is all written right here. It is proprietary, so it's not available on the web, only to CoStar subscribers. If you come down here, you can see what's happening internationally, and then also broken out by different asset class or theme. So if you want to focus on just retail or industrial development related news. And then finally, at the bottom, you have CoStar contacts. So one of the best things, in my opinion, about CoStar is we give you access to these contacts. Someone like myself or Alex, whose job it is to help our clients make sure they're comfortable using CoStar. I just came from a meeting with one of my big clients, helping them look at, how do we find industrial properties with certain level of clearance that are available both on market and off market. I help my clients do that. Make sure they're comfortable using CoStar. The other resource here, Nadia and the researchers. So Nadia is one of our researchers. What they do is, I mentioned before, get your listings on CoStar so they can help you facilitate getting your listings up onto the platform. The other thing that they do, which in my opinion is the best part, is they're an extension of your research team. If you come across a property on CoStar and you want to know more, say, for example, it doesn't have any zoning information, or maybe it has an owner but no phone number, you can ask Nadia about that and they can help update the record. So we give you direct access to the research team so that you can speak to them and that they can, help you dig a little bit deeper into the information. When I was at JLL, I used it all the time. Hey, can you help me find who owns this property? It's a good resource. Okay. Up at the top here, different modules. So these are all the modules I mentioned earlier. Directory, that's something we just added if we want to look for brokers. I want to find a tenant rep broker. I want to find an owner. But the main module is properties. This is our main section. I'm going to jump into here. I will explain the top ones though. So leasing, everything for lease and lease comparables. Sales, for sale and sale comparables. So done, completed lease transactions, completed sale transactions. Tenant database. So if you want to find, let's see all of A&W's locations, or let's find all of the office tenants that have leases expiring in the next year in Mississauga. That's something we can look for here in tenants. And then here, though, in properties, all of the pins on the map, they all represent commercial properties. The blue ones are for sale or for lease. The gray ones, not on the market. They're all off market. I don't mean off market like, hey, they're looking to sell, but they just aren't telling anyone. What I mean is we track all commercial properties. So if you want to find every office building in Etobicoke, it'd be as easy as, searching up Etobicoke. Let's do it like that. And property type, I'm going office. I gotta do a better thing. So we go markets. I'm gonna look for Etob. I need to do Toronto East. Yeah, East or West Toronto. There it is. So like a sub-market here, all in that section. These are all the office properties, 554. We can also filter though by regions. So say I want to look at over here, I'm looking at York region, Peel, or maybe I want to look at the full market coverage. In fact, let's see what our coverage is like in our immediate area. So I don't know if people go further afield than this. This is kind of up to Simcoe County, down to Niagara, Kitchener, Guelph, Waterloo, Hamilton. You have about 9,600 office properties in this area. And if I remove office, I think we have 108,000 properties across this whole area. However, let's say we're looking at London. I don't know if anyone ever goes down to London. What does Costar have there? It just means our field research team isn't down in London yet, but we still have, as you see, thousands of properties, hundreds of listings. Okay. So let's do an example on how we can get a better understanding of a certain market. So let me do, not sure if we have any preference on the type, but I'm going to go with industrial, let's say. And let's say I'm looking in a certain submarket, maybe up in Brampton Industrial. So as you see, we have 1,200 industrial properties across Brampton here. I can then filter down by, let's say, property size. So how big is it? Let's say we're looking in the 20 to 80,000 range. Either we're looking for acquiring or we're looking maybe to lease some space. We can do both of those exercises. If I come into the filters though, let's say we're looking for a user owner of ours in the building section. We can look for maybe, we're trying to find existing buildings, or maybe you're representing a tenant that wants to help build out a space. They're like, hey, I want to find something that's under construction so that I can speak to the landlord and they can help me. I can help them with the pre-construction. So in this case, it doesn't look like we have any that are under construction. What if I remove some of that? Okay, so maybe it's only big stuff that's being built right now. 327,000, pre-leasing 68 to 240,000 in 1925. Let's find another property though. One thing I wanted to say though, what we can do in Costar, and this is probably familiar to MLS, I can save this search, save current search. I want to be notified in the future about any new industrial developments going on in this area. So I would save that search. We can do that as well for what's for sale. I want to know about any industrial for sale, any industrial for lease, or has sold. Maybe you want to know about every time, I want to know any time development land is purchased in Vaughan, because I am trying to, do a negotiation and I want to see what the price per acre is like in that area. You can actually see some of my alerts here. I'll click on that, this bell up here. These are alerts that I've set up to help me keep tabs on what's happening in the market. Okay, new supply of multifamily and condos in the GTA. So it shows me the date it was added to Costar. And in fact, look at that, Brampton Apartments, some big apartments, wow. But if I keep coming down here, what's another example I might have? 7 cap. So maybe if you're looking for an investor, they want to buy some property that's 7 cap rates. Doesn't matter the asset class. This is a showroom, a warehouse, continuing care facility, office space, apartments, gas station for sale in the GTA. So all of these are different things.
Eric, I have a question about
Please.
the cap rate that you just
Sure.
mentioned. So is that verified by you guys that is actually in that category, or how does it land in that category?
Good question. So these are actually for sale. So when it's for sale, we don't necessarily verify that. It's being advertised as a 7 cap. If we're talking though about a sale that's already happened, we track cap rates, but only if it's been confirmed by both the buyer and the seller. So we're not going to do any estimated cap rates. We're not going to put cap rates in if a buyer says one thing and a seller says another thing. It's only if both sides say the same. Now, in this case, this is for sale. So these are advertised cap rates. I'd probably still want to do a little due diligence on it, of course. But yeah, good question. Does that answer it, Sabia?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. It's just we're used to the MLS where everything is verified, and you get into trouble if it's not correct. So I was just wondering if, I guess, the due diligence has to be done by the buyer agent to figure out it's
Yeah.
all. Yeah.
You're still going to want to do due diligence, of course. CoStar, we like to say CoStar gets you to the red, the goal zone, the 90 yard, or gets you 90 yards. You're on the 10-yard line. You guys got to score the touchdown. But we'll help you get down there.
Right.
Getting back to my example. So let's say I'm looking at, again, industrial properties. I want to find just the ones existing. If I go to the building section, I can also filter again by size, by type, secondary type. So food processing, distribution, warehouse. Let's do warehouse. Year built, land area. These are all things we can filter by. Is it occupied by the owner? Is it a single multiple tenant? Class of the building. Clear height, that's always very relevant. Let's do 18-foot clear. So we're down to 243 properties. We can also then filter down by contacts. I want to find all these industrial properties that are owned by a certain company. The one that always, Orlando Corp, I know they're a big owner. Let's see if we have property. Yep, so a few Orlando Corp companies in there, or properties. Or maybe owned by a certain type of owner. I want to find developers or individuals that own these properties. But remember, these are all the properties regardless of for sale or for lease. So let's see what's for sale. Quickly toggle to for sale. We have 9 properties for sale. And one thing I want to clarify there, I'm looking at these. I see, okay, these are condo units for sale, condo units. Maybe we don't want condos. We want just freehold. So I'm going to come back here, go to the for sale filters, and I'm going to exclude condo sales. 4 properties. Here they are right here. Let's actually take a look at one of them. I'm going to jump into this property up on Coleraine. Okay, so as this loads up here, you see this ribbon. These are all sections within this property. We can get a little bit more information. But you're going to have some images loading on the right, high-level numbers along the top. So let's see. We're talking about 27,000 square feet, 3.3 acres, built in 2000. It's got a range of availabilities, a range of rents, the sale price just under 30 million, or 1.1 or 1,100 per square foot. Come down here, any section with a double arrow like sale or for lease, market conditions, they correspond to up here, and I can click in and get more info. But let's first look at the building details. So I already mentioned the size. Clear height is 22-foot clear. It's got 5 drive-in doors. All of these are filterable. So the amount of office that's in it, it's got a little bit of office space. There's your power, 600 amps, 600 volts, parking, zoning, acreage. And then if I want to go into the sale, let's take a look at that first. So in the sales section, we'll have, do we have it for sale? Are there any prior sales and any nearby comparable sales that CoStar thinks are similar to this property? So no prior sales here, because we only go back in CoStar Canada about 10 years. But let's see this property here. So, or the sale, the for sale listing. So we can see incredible opportunity to own over 3 acres near Major Mac Highway 27. Excellent exposure, your zoning, dry industrial use. So these are always some good notes to read as well. Seller will include 6 overhead cranes and operating equipment. So maybe this is kind of like an owner user thing is what I'm kind of thinking. But it could be good investment as well. These are the brokers, of course, on the sale. Then the nearby comps. So let's say, for example, okay, it is 30 million. Does that pass a sniff test to me? 1,100 square foot. That kind of sounds like a lot. Let's see if I'm coming down here. I could sort by price per square foot. So we're looking at, 300 to 1,100. Don't know why this keeps bouncing back up. But we can also see what's the most recent sale we've had. I see down here, this one actually was at 1,500. Let's take a look at this, April 2024. This just happened 2 weeks ago. And this is a great example in CoStar where we can see the recorded buyer. That's what you would see on GeoWarehouse or on title. Same on the seller side. But we know the true seller BVD group, the true buyer, Lion Forest Transport. So from one, truck company to the other, we have a contact for Lion Forest. There's Honey with a phone number, an address, and an email address. Come down here, some notes on the sale. There's some financing, a loan from RBC totaling 44.682. You can see some information as an owner user sale, the financing again, who the brokers were. And down here, we have our sources and research. So you can see, when the sale happened. I think I saw the date up here, April 17th. We had it on the platform by the 22nd. And we can always reach out to Ben and say, hey, Ben, can you help me find some more info on, the buyer's favorite color? Or, more realistically, I saw it here. There's no seller contact. So who would I reach out to at BVD Group if I want to know more? Well, actually, we could also click on BVD Group like this. See a little bit about them. They own 5 properties. A bit about the company itself. You can see some of their holdings, land, office. And I can go into the contacts here. And maybe who would I reach out? I got Chanvir. I got a phone number. Do I have any more contacts? Bikram, phone number. Awesome. So that's just one of those sale comps. I can also come into the lease tab. That's going to see all the availability. So there's 2 availabilities here, first floor or suite 1 and suite 2, both the same size. Interesting, one suite has got the higher rents. There's your gross value there. Let's click on these listings. When it was last updated, so updated April 17th. Information about the lease availability itself. Okay, contacts tab. So now we want to contact someone here. We have the recorded owner, but we don't have the true owner. Well, in this case, it's obvious it's Vincenzo, but we don't have a phone number. So again, I'd reach out to Nadia and say, hey, Nadia, what's the phone number for our owner contact here? Okay, coming back out here. Let's say now we want to take these properties, we want to send them to a client. It's very easy. Obviously, we can save our searches, be alerted about new industrial for sale in this area. But I can also click reports here. We have a ton of different report types. I can generate a PDF report of varying amount of information. It could be as much as a 2-page or 1-page little summary, property summary report. It could be a list of properties with a map, or we even have full underwriting reports for our properties. So it could be up to 90 pages long. Maybe a little too much, but a real in-depth overview of the property. Okay, I want to show now for lease, coming in here, removing some of these for sale criteria. I'm going to remove this. I'm going to remove for sale. I'm going to now look for lease. So now for lease, I'll go into for lease filters, similar sort of thing, but now we need to select space use. So property type, space use, usually the same industrial space, industrial building, but you might have ground floor retail space in an apartment building, ground floor retail space in a condo. But let's look for industrial space. I'm looking for direct or sublease. Let's say I'm looking for either. Minimum space, it's got to be 20,000 up to 40,000. That's within those buildings that we were looking at. Then we have our other filters, the rent filter, Most of these I wouldn't necessarily filter by, but you could if you want days on market. The build out status, is it empty? Is it a shell space? Is it fully built out? The term of the lease being offered. But anyway, here are our options. Got those 4 properties, 5 spaces for lease. Again, let's take a quick look at 52 Armthorpe here, 28,000, 18.5 net. Other tenants in the building. And again, save this search, be notified about these going forward. Okay. But what I want to get to is I want to get to showing off-market properties. So it's great to see what's for sale, what's for lease, but I think where CoStar really excels and where you can really get the most out of it is identifying off-market properties. So I removed all of those for lease, for sale filters. We're now just looking at those industrial properties, 243 of them. If I go from the map view to the list view here, map, list, analytics, 3 ways to view everything. In the list view, well, this is all in a table format. I can export this into Excel if I like. You can see who the owners are right here. Always like to show people the recorded owners and the true owners. So 2 Colony, CT Holdings, ULC, that's pretty useless, pure industrial. This numbered company, well, we know it's Surrender. Similarly down here, this numbered company is Tarlachen. If I go from properties here, I want to go to spaces. This is going to show me all those spaces for lease, 37 spaces for lease. So high level, I can get an idea of what's average asking rent, the TMIs. Is it, when can I occupy? Well, I can't occupy this one until June. 30 days, who's leasing it? Then into lease comps. So done lease transactions. This is definitely one of the hardest things in CoStar because, as you guys all know, brokers aren't always willing to share this information, and we don't make brokers share their lease information with us. However, we still are able to get some good info. So, for example, this first one at the top, 120,000 square feet leased to Niche Bakers, 1725 was the starting rent. Coming down here, our home and appliances, 1450 net, starting rent, 60,000 square feet. That's past November. So you can see it's not always complete, but any of this missing info, again, I say you ask your researcher, they can do their best to help find some more details. Sale comps. So again, I mentioned this before, our sale comps are very good. We get a lot of good sale information. So in the last year, out of these 243 properties, there have been 25 transactions. And you can see a lot of them, industrial condo here, industrial condo. You can see some, full-size properties as well. And then again, who's the buyer? What I always want to get to, though, is this owners tab. This is how we say, who are the owners? This is how we get to quickly understanding a market. Who are the owners of industrial properties, 18-foot clear in our area of Brampton? Sort by the number of properties in our search. And we can see, obviously big companies, Blackstone, Dream, Orlando Corp, Power Corp. But you can also compare this column here, properties in search, with properties owned. And if I come down here, well, maybe we're getting down to Jack's Construction. 2 properties, that's all their properties. Let me click on that. So 10 and 20 Wilkinson Road, a little owner user here has got 2 properties. Let's take a look at them. Okay, so bought them condos, bought some condo units back then. And again, I can then also sort by the type, and maybe I want to find individuals. So if I sort by secondary type here, I'm actually going to show 100 per page. Let's kind of zip down a bit. Individuals down here. Okay, so Vipul, this one is not so much individual, but small user. Teresa, Tarlachen, Rick, Pushminder. All these we have information on what was their properties. Let's click on that one. Teresa bought or owns this property here once it loads up. Okay, hold on a second. Try that again. There we go, 27 Edvac Drive. Again, information on the building. We don't have a sale record, so she must have owned it for at least 10 years now. And then if we want to reach out to any of these groups, So obviously smaller ones, there'll be less info, but for Teresa, address, phone number. And if we look at some larger groups, like let's say we're looking at Gans Realty. Again, contacts over here, we'll have lots of contacts for them. Okay. Last thing in this section, analytics. So I can go over the analytics. I can see who is, looking, or sorry, what are the metrics around these properties? What's the average rent? What's the amount under construction in this area? What's the vacancy like? And this is specifically for our sample set we did here. Why is this helpful? This helps you talk intelligently with buyers, with prospects about not just industrial market in general or office market in general, but like, hey, Mr. Buyer, I know your neighborhood. I know what rent is like. I know where it's trending. And I can, support all that with graphs, charts, data, all exportable via Costar here. So I'm going to take a quick pause. I know I've been blabbing for a while here. Anyone have any questions? I don't see anything in the chat box. If not, I can keep going. There's lots to see. Awesome. Okay. Well, I want to show the sales as well. And then I want to show tenants. So in this sales section, if I go over to sales, it's going to show us what's for sale, but also sale comp. So I mentioned, the transactions. This is where we can find transactions. Let's say we have a listing, a property for sale, and we want to find a buyer. The best thing we do is come to Costar, go to the sale comp section, and try to find who has been buying similar properties in a similar area. So I will pick a new area. In fact, I'm going to use a radius tool instead. Maybe we're looking at up in Vaughan, Richmond Hill, Markham. Say I'm looking at this area. And I'm looking for office and retail condos. Who's been buying those? So click on office, click on retail. This is the last 2 years, but maybe I want to do even just the last 1 year. We may have to change that later. I'm going to go into the filters again. Those light blue pins, for those wondering, those are under contract sales, so I could remove those. I just want to find, let's say, confirmed sales. And then I want to go into sales, and I want to make sure that I'm including only condo sales and none, and I'm not excluding them. Okay. So office, retail, condo sales, that took me a few clicks. I'm now going to go to the list view again. And I'm going to go to the buyers tab. Sort by number of sales. There again, not too difficult. We can do that for any kind of property that anyone has. I'm happy to do an example if someone wants to shout out something. I can do an example of how to find buyers for that type of property. But look, what we did here, Kian Wang, 3 condo sales. I click on number 3, all bought around the same time. I wonder if it was all kind of the same property. Yeah, 4750 Young. So bought a lot of condo units there. Come down here, Joseph Bitton, 2 condo sale, this past February. The Great Gulf property. And we can obviously export this and work on it on our own if we like. Coming back out, I'm going to do the tenant section quick then. Go over to the tenants. So what we have in the tenant section defaults right away to tenant companies, but we can go to tenant locations. Tenant companies would be I want to find a tenant that has, 10 locations of retail and is occupying X number of square feet. I like to go into tenant locations because this is the typical Costar view. We're going to see all of the pins on the map representing tenants. And then from there, we can kind of filter by a certain area. So say, for example, I'll do another example. I'm looking for tenants to fill. Maybe I got a property for lease at Yonge and Eglinton. I got some office space at Yonge and Egg, which I think is right about there. So let's say I'm looking generally Midtown, and I'm looking for office tenants. And I'm looking for office tenants that are currently occupying, or let's say my space is 5,000 square feet, let's say. So that means, let's say I'm looking for tenants that are occupying anywhere between 3,000 to 7,000. Maybe some people are looking to expand. Some people these days may be looking to shrink their space. So 3,000 to 7,000 square feet that they currently occupy. If I go into the filters, I now want to go to occupancy type. So they're leasing or subleasing their space. I don't want to find owner occupiers. Maybe in a different search, we want to look for owner occupiers. 299 tenants. Then I want to go down to the tenant information. So if I want to look for a specific tenant, I can. If I want to look for a certain industry that they're in, maybe it's education tenants, healthcare, admin, manufacturing, if we're looking at industrial, real estate, or these NAICS codes. Not sure if people are familiar with this, but if you have a specific use case in mind, say your space is fit out for a dentist specifically, well, I can look for, there it is, dentist offices specifically, and find those tenants and move them and reach out to them. So we can be very specific at the type of tenants that we reach out to in CoStar and search for. Back up into spaces. What we can do then, filter by here, is the expiration date, the move-in date. Now, expiration date, I'll be honest, that's difficult for us to get as well. We don't have all of that. But let me show you our list here. So I'm going to go to the list view. Let's see who are some of these people we could reach out to. So if I move across here, I want to show you our expiration. So again, I'll be honest, we don't have a ton of them, but we do have some here. So December 2028, 2028. Maybe now I'm looking to reach out to some of these people here. July maybe even is a little too soon, or June or July. These are all expiring soon. December, April 25. But we can also do it by looking at the move-in date, right? We could put our broker hat on and say, most leases 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever you like. So let's go to maybe, 5 years ago would be around 2019, 2020. So all these group moved in about 5 years ago. We could reach out to them, see if they're, looking to move or not. One thing I want to show, I want to find a company that I recognize. Has a few locations. Scotiabank, obviously. Let's look at Scotia. Okay, so Scotiabank. So we have, how much space that they're occupying, when they moved in most recently, when they expire, information on the space, information on, the tenant. This tenant has 40 different locations within the same market. So, maybe that's an excuse to consolidate. The building was renovated not too long ago. Company overview, building overview, any activity in the building. Now it's a single tenant building. Contact though. So we got Larry, Director of Real Estate, Scotiabank. There's a contact for people to reach out to, phone number, email address. We always have our CoStar contact too. So Alex, she can help do a little search into, maybe if we didn't have Larry's info here, or, for example, like we don't have the rent. Again, no guarantee we get that info, but leverage the research team. They're here to help. Contacts. So again, this will be who's our Scotia contact. There's Larry. Relationships. Who's the landlord? Okay, so interesting. Silver Hotel Group. They own this property. Let's go to the company page though now. Let's look at Scotiabank as a whole. 648 locations, 5.9 million square feet, 88,000 employees. There you see there's locations. Come down here, list of some of their locations, company overview. related companies, how they break out their portfolio, how much is leased, how much is owned. It's a retail, office, location, it's a suburban, CBD, urban, who they work with, the landlords they work with, the tenant reps that they work with. And then we'll have more contacts. We'll always have more contacts in the company overview section. So I wanted to get to this contact tab. You have a lot of options of who you can reach out to at Scotia. Well, let's see all of their locations. All right, now I know I'm throwing a ton of information at everyone. Sabiha, how am I doing for time?
You're good.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So I want to show the last of the market section, but then I kind of want to open up for a little Q&A. I'm happy to do some examples. And then at the end, I'm happy also obviously to talk about how CoStar contracting works for those who are interested. In the market section, this is the last area. I didn't touch on this too much, but what I like about this is your overview. So if you're someone who wants to really like better understand a market or a submarket, this is where you can go to sink your teeth into it. We can toggle here, office, industrial, retail. Maybe people are interested in multifamily, let's say. So if I come down into our area, you can see the markets. So the Toronto market, the Greater Golden Horseshoe market. But if I toggle this, the submarkets, you can see it all sliced and diced up. And in fact, one thing I always like to show people here is I can go to the list view for these markets. And maybe what we want to do is maybe we're advising clients, maybe we are advising ourselves, we want to understand better. But let's say you're investing in apartment buildings. Well, where in the GTA would you invest? Well, let's get an idea of who has the highest market asking rent per unit. Where is the highest rent per unit most expensive? North York, Northeast, surprisingly. Rent growth. Where's the rent growth the highest? Which area is experiencing the fastest growth? Now, 3 townships, small outside of KWC. Also important to notice the size of the market. So 150 million square feet of multifamily properties there. You come down, you have 3 billion in Brampton West, 5.7 billion North York, North Central. What else can we look at, though, is another thing to kind of help us better understand markets. Percentage of inventory under construction. So with people kind of moving away from condos, moving to rentals, you can see a huge growth in some areas that were previously neglected as rental markets. So Markham, 22% of their entire inventory of purpose-built rentals is being built right now. So a lot of new rentals coming up over there. What does that mean? Maybe that means retail to follow, right? Retail follows rental often. So maybe that's something you want to advise clients on. And then finally over here, sale price, sales volume, cap rates. Well, let's get into a market. I'm going to go back to the market level again. In fact, we can change this. Let's look at office. Toronto. So now we're looking at the office market. Total inventory, how much square footage, the vacancy, market asking rent per unit, sale price. This is all office property, but if we want to filter by the quality of office, say we're looking at, maybe B class, maybe we're looking at A class, that corresponds to the CoStar stars. So let's say I'm looking for the 5-star, that would be like A plus, and the 4-star. So for these properties, vacancy is actually even higher than it was for all office. The sale price down 4.5%, cap rates climbing up some more. Construction volume down a lot, down 20%, because why are we building a new office? People aren't even in them. Summary, so a little bit about the market itself. I'm actually gonna remove these stars. And then down into info on, availability. So one thing we always like to show, we have our vacancy rate, 9.5, but the availability rate, 14.3. Some people may see, reports from some of the brokerages they would have their vacancy at 14, 15. Our availability, vacancy. Availability means space is available, but someone could still be in that space, and we're tracking the tenants in those space. So that's why we break it out like that. And then down here, so this is a great story. You can see how vacancies trended in office over the past 10 years. And then where's it start to, 2020, and it's just kind of climbed ever since, maybe plateauing now. Cap rates stayed low for a long time. Even through 2020, they stayed low. And now maybe owners are saying they have to realize losses on their space. They're having to sell their properties, and therefore cap rates are climbing up. Sale price climbing down. And then we have different sections on leasing, graphs and charts, so forecasting that vacancy is going to stay high for the foreseeable future. Absorption, leasing activity. Let's get down to rent though. So how's rent? So rent expecting to come down, but then maybe kind of stabilize the rent growth. So that's rent growth, and there's your asking rent itself. All these charts, export them as Excel files, as PDFs. Again, maybe sometimes your negotiation doesn't require you to have 20 different graphs and charts. That's totally fine. CoStar has that information available to you to help you tell the story that you want to tell. So I think I'm going to kind of stop around there and see if there's any questions. Does anyone have any examples that they'd like for me to tackle in CoStar? Because I find those to be the most impactful.
Eric, I love the fact that when you and I were talking at the very beginning, you looked at 33 Pearl Street.
Yeah.
And I didn't report what the sale price was, because that's a possibility in commercial real estate. It was a private transaction, and to my surprise, CoStar actually had the purchase price listed. And when I inquired into what that was and how you obtained that source, you guys had it on record that you actually spoke to the previous owner, and that the previous owner disclosed that information to you guys. So, don't look it up. Do me a favor. Don't look it up.
Okay, all right.
And to my surprise, it just goes to the testament of the strength of your research team and the information. You guys had some mortgage information, like you guys knew what my interest was payable on my mortgage, which was, it arms the professional with so much knowledge to be able to structure your conversation and really have impactful conversations. Like if my mortgage was really high, somebody could approach and say, hey, listen, I know you're paying a lot of money in interest, and interest rates are going to keep going up. Would you be interested in offloading this property? You bought it relatively high in this time, and blah blah. Like it gives you so much ammunition to be able to look for areas of opportunity where you can put deals together, where you can put land assemblies together, where you can have meaningful conversations with ownership groups. You can see, what other pieces of real estate they own in their corporation. Like it's just it's almost scary how armed with the right information, what you can do with it.
Yeah. No, I totally agree, and I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, to reiterate, with the sales, we get the deed of the sale and we get the mortgage document on all the sales that we receive. So we're not allowed to upload them into CoStar, but we can kind of turn and type some of those information into the platform. And so, for example, what David was alluding to there, I can come and filter in the property section by previous sale date. And so an exercise I've been doing with some of my clients recently has been, let's look for people who bought development land at the wrong time. They bought it, maybe when interest rates were still really low, and now they're stuck with it and they don't want it anymore. So we can look for land that was a finance sale that was bought during a certain window. And all this information, what it does, like David said, it just gives you the ammunition you need to talk intelligently. It's not just like, hey, you want to sell your property? No? Okay, bye. No, it's, hey, I understand that transactions are happening in your area. Did you know something sold down the street from you for X per square foot or X per acre? I know people are buying in your area. It gives you that sort of ammunition to be able to talk intelligently. Okay. Um, Again, one last shout out, and then I'll talk about kind of contracting. Any questions, any examples that anyone would like me to tackle?
Yeah. And Eric, the nature of commercial property is that if somebody lists a commercial property in MLS, it's almost too late. That means that, they've called all their internal sources. That means that they've exhausted their closest resources in terms of, competitors, business partners, acquaintances, people in their immediate network. And that means that all those people have really passed on that property. So you're going to find that the majority of commercial property, the really good properties, those are properties that, the realtor puts the deal together off MLS by, investigating the sort of opportunities that you just alluded to, like buying development land at the wrong time, having a high interest rate on your mortgage and not being cash flow positive, having the wrong tenants, like for example, if like we had a situation where Zellers, right, bankrupted throughout Canada. And to me, like that's an opportunity to what if Zellers was the main anchor tenant in the commercial plaza? What do you think that does the value to that commercial plaza? It obviously it's gonna tank. It's gonna put those people into trouble. So you can, instantly look up and then you can check what other properties does this particular owner have, and what opportunities are there for me to be able to structure deals and put deals together. So this is what, the commercial professionals do. They sit there and look for these opportunities where they can go and have these intelligent conversations with business owners that understand numbers and business, and structure these opportunities outside of the regular context of doing business. And when I saw CoStar, the research, the property information, all the tools, like to me, if I was a commercial agent, this would be this would be like my Bible. I would live on
Um,
this platform.
on that note, Eric, like, for instance, when Abu was asking me yesterday about for his friend who wants a restaurant, you can go for business for sale, but you can also go for lease by the owner of the property, which is a lot cheaper for your client because you're not paying for the goodwill part of it, just the, whatever the leasehold improvements are. And that happened with me when Licks had gone out of business. Um, I was able to put in a few clients in different locations of Licks with different landlords where they were basically getting all the leasehold improvements for free because the landlord was happy to just give over. So that kind of back information, which is not really available for us on MLS, is quite amazing.
Absolutely. You guys said it well. Um, in terms of, I'll get to the fun part. In terms of how CoStar contracts work, CoStar is a annual subscription. It's a 12-month subscription minimum. We will do longer terms, and it depends on two things. So one, let's say we're talking about a shop like JLL or CBRE. How it works there is every commercial broker at those shops need to be signed up if anyone wants to use it. With shops like Remax, Sutton, Royal LePage, what we call, they're residential mostly, resi-mercial, maybe some could call it. How it works there is we can offer one-off licenses, but it's also better on a group contract. It's cheaper per individual. We also require that people who do regularly do commercial join up. So I need to kind of get a better understanding. First of all, I just want to see if people are interested, but a price for one user on its own is $625 per month, $7,500 for the year. That's HST exempt. So $7,500 a year that's just for one user. If there are multiple users on the same contract, that price comes down and down per individual that's added on. So I think, for example, if there's 5, then it comes down to $500 a month as opposed to $625 per month. So wanting to give you kind of a high level understanding of that. But I think today, like I said, it's mostly about understanding or, teaching everyone what Costar is, give you a flavor of it. And then afterwards, I'm happy to connect with any and every one of you if you like to discuss Costar. But then also David and Sabiha, maybe we can talk about if you guys can get a better understanding of if there is group interest in a more group thing, I can then take that to my director and we can discuss that further.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll do that. We do have an increasing number of realtors who, want to work with commercial clients. So we're going to continue having those conversations and, giving them the resources that they can use to succeed.
Perfect. I saw the question in the chat there. One thing I want to point out. So the licenses are tied to an individual. So it's not like a license to be shared by the office. So these are decisions that everyone's got to make on their own if they want a license for themselves for the year. I'm always happy to do another session or 2 sessions. Happy to come up and meet you guys in person. But I was questioned on brokerage license. Want to be clear, 1 license per individual, but it'll be a cheaper cost the more individuals get their own license.
Awesome. Awesome, Eric. And we'd love to have you back at the brokerage at some point to dive a little bit deeper and do another presentation for us. We are going to circulate the recording and, we're going to check the temperature for sure. But I think, having ongoing sessions with you every once in a while would just go a long way to just raising information and empowering our realtors as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the last thing I'll always say, and please remind people, anyone can advertise on Costar for free. So anyone wants to reach out to me after this and say, I want to get my listings on Costar, please let me know. Let David know, let Sabiha know, and we'll get you your listings on Costar.
So Eric, is that the way to go about it, or is it something that people can just do on their own, or
they can do it on their own. They can do it on their own. It's maybe, at least at first, easier if we help. You essentially can go on to Costar. It's free to access. You can create a free account. You can't access any of those tabs except for one, which is Marketing Center. And then from there, you can go there and create a listing. But, I'm happy to connect. Normally, what I would do is I would connect someone with the researchers, and then the researchers can, help you get your listings on the Costar.
Okay, perfect.
Like Sabiha, I can connect you with, I think we have a researcher who's tied to your specific office. So I can get you their information.
Wonderful. Sounds great. Thank you.
Perfect.
Anybody has any questions? I think there's 2 messages down here.
Yes.
Abu's asking if you can share the license fee, different tiers. It would be great.
Yeah, so there is just, like I said, there's just one platform. So it's Costar Suite. There's no just office data or just Toronto data. It's everything. It's, like I said, $625 per month. But let's say, for example, there's 2 people who join on. Instead of $625 for each of them, maybe it's $600 for each of them. And then if a third person joins, instead of $600, it's $570 each of them. I don't know exact numbers because it's like scale by scale like that. So first, I think it's important just to understand who is interested, and then we can always work on pricing. But think about it like $625 per month, $7,500 for the year, no HST.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you everyone for joining.
Yeah, thank you, David. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Eric. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you. Appreciate yours. Hope to talk to you all soon and have a nice day.